The young girl dangled over the bridge railing, her small fingers slipping on the wet metal as the turquoise water churned 30 feet below. Marina screamed as her stepmother Victoria's manicured nails dug into her wrist, not pulling her up, but holding her there, suspended between safety and death. "Please. Mama, please," Marina cried, her 7-year-old voice breaking. Victoria leaned closer, her red dress brilliant against the gray sky. "You're not my daughter. You never were. And you're standing between me and everything your father left behind." Behind them, a man in a black suit sprinted across the bridge, his face twisted in rage. "Victoria, what are you doing?" Victoria's grip loosened. Marina felt herself slip another inch. The water below seemed to reach up for her. "Saving my future," Victoria said calmly. She opened her hand. Marina fell. The world became a blur of sky and water and screaming. She hit the surface hard, the impact knocking the air from her lungs. Cold water engulfed her, pulling her down into darkness. She thrashed, her small arms fighting against the current, but the river was stronger. Her lungs burned. Her vision dimmed. Something grabbed her collar. Strong hands yanked her upward. She broke the surface, gasping and choking. A man, not the one from the bridge, but someone younger, with kind eyes, pulled her toward the riverbank. "I've got you," he said. "You're safe now." Marina collapsed on the muddy shore, coughing up water. The man wrapped his jacket around her shivering body. "Where's your mother?" he asked. Marina looked up at the bridge. Victoria stood at the railing, watching. Even from this distance, Marina could see her stepmother's cold smile. Then Victoria turned and walked away, her red dress disappearing into a waiting car. "She's not my mother," Marina whispered. The man followed her gaze. "Who pushed you?" "Nobody will believe me." "Try me." Marina told him everything. About her father, the wealthy businessman who had died 6 months ago in a car accident. About Victoria, who had married him 2 years earlier and immediately sent Marina to boarding school. About the will that left everything in trust for Marina until she turned 18, with Victoria as the temporary guardian. About the accident on the bridge that wasn't an accident at all. The man listened, his jaw tightening. "My name is Thomas Chin. I'm a lawyer. Your father was my client." Marina's eyes widened. "You knew my father?" "I helped him write his will. He made me promise something. He said if anything ever happened to him, I should watch over you. He didn't trust Victoria." "Then why didn't you stop her?" "I didn't know what she was planning. But I know now." Thomas pulled out his phone and made a call. "I'm reporting an attempted murder." Marina grabbed his arm. "She'll say I fell. She'll say I was being reckless. Everyone always believes her." Not this time. But Marina was right. When the police arrived, Victoria had her story ready. She'd been trying to save Marina, she claimed, tears streaming down her perfect face. Marina had been playing too close to the edge. Victoria had grabbed her wrist to pull her back, but the girl had panicked and fallen. It was tragic. Traumatic. She blamed herself. The man in the black suit, Victoria's brother Anton, corroborated every word. He'd seen the whole thing. The little girl had been foolish. Victoria had done everything she could. The police questioned Marina in the hospital. She told them the truth. They exchanged glances, their skepticism clear. "Children sometimes remember things differently when they're traumatized," one officer said gently. Thomas argued. He demanded an investigation. He cited the will, the suspicious timing of her father's death, the financial motive. But without proof, without witnesses, there was nothing he could do. Victoria visited Marina in the hospital that night. She sent the nurse away, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. "You should have died," Victoria said softly. "That would have been cleaner. But since you survived, let's establish some rules. You're going to a new boarding school. Very far away. Very exclusive. You'll stay there year-round. If you ever tell anyone what really happened, I'll make sure you have another accident. And this time, there won't be a kind lawyer to fish you out of the river." Marina stared at her stepmother's beautiful, cruel face. "Why do you hate me?" "I don't hate you, darling. You're just in my way. Your father's fortune should have been mine. Instead, I have to wait 11 years for you to turn 18, and even then, I only get a fraction. Unless something happens to you. Then I inherit everything immediately. The will has a clause for if you die before majority. I read it very carefully. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear into that boarding school. You're going to be a good, quiet, forgettable little girl. And when you turn 18, you're going to sign over half of your inheritance to me. Consider it payment for not finishing what I started on that bridge. I'll never. Victoria's hand shot out, gripping Marina's throat. Not hard enough to leave marks, but hard enough to terrify. You'll do exactly what I say. Or I'll kill Thomas Chin. I'll make it look like a robbery. Then I'll kill anyone else who tries to help you. Do you understand? Marina nodded, tears streaming down her face. Victoria released her and stood. Good girl. The school is in Switzerland. You leave tomorrow. Goodbye, Marina. I hope I never see you again. She left. Marina lay in the dark hospital room, shaking. She was 7 years old, alone and trapped. Her father was dead. Her stepmother wanted her dead. And there was nothing she could do about it. But she was wrong about one thing. She would see Victoria again. And when she did, everything would be different. The boarding school was called Institut Sommet, perched high in the Swiss Alps like a prison made of snow and stone. Marina spent 8 years there, isolated from the world. She had no friends. Victoria made sure of that, sending instructions to the headmistress that Marina was troubled and needed to be kept separate from other students for her own safety. Marina lived in a small room on the top floor. She ate alone. She studied alone. Once a month, she was allowed a supervised phone call with Victoria, who asked questions designed to remind Marina of her threats. How is dear Mr. Chin? Still practicing law, I hope? Marina learned to survive in silence. She read every book in the school's library. She studied languages, French, German, Italian, Mandarin. She took every advanced course available. She exercised in her room, push-ups and sit-ups and yoga poses learned from forbidden internet searches on the librarian's computer. And she planned. She thought about Victoria every single day. About the bridge. About her father. About revenge. On her 15th birthday, a letter arrived. Not from Victoria, but from Thomas Chin. It had been smuggled in by a sympathetic cook who pitied the lonely girl. Marina, I haven't forgotten you. I haven't stopped investigating. Your father's death wasn't an accident. I'm close to proving it. Don't give up. When you turn 18, everything changes. Trust me. TC. Marina burned the letter, as the note instructed. But the message burned brighter in her heart. She wasn't alone. Someone remembered. Someone cared. She began preparing in earnest. She hacked into the school's computer system and taught herself coding. She created false identities online. She researched Victoria obsessively, building a dossier of her stepmother's life, her business dealings, her social circle, her secrets. She discovered Victoria had remarried. A man named Richard Blackwood, a real estate developer with political ambitions. They lived in Marina's childhood home, the estate her father had built. They threw lavish parties. They were featured in society magazines. And they were stealing from Marina's trust fund. Thomas's letters, one every few months, always smuggled, confirmed it. Victoria had been embezzling for years, falsifying expenses, siphoning money into shell corporations. She'd taken millions. But she'd been careful. Too careful for the police to act without more evidence. When you turn 18, the trust becomes yours, Thomas wrote. She'll have to produce full accounting. That's when we strike. But you need to be ready. She won't give up without a fight. Marina turned 16, then 17. She grew taller, leaner, harder. The frightened 7-year-old who'd been pushed off a bridge was gone. In her place was someone else. Someone patient. Someone dangerous. On her 18th birthday, Marina didn't celebrate. She packed her single suitcase, walked out of Institut Sommet for the last time, and boarded a train to Geneva. Thomas met her at the station. He'd aged in the 8 years since the bridge. Gray streaked his hair. Lines creased his face. But his eyes still held the same kindness, the same determination. You've grown up, he said. I've had time. They sat in a cafe overlooking the lake. Thomas spread documents across the table. Your trust fund should be worth 50 million. Victoria has stolen 18 million. I can prove it. But if we go to the authorities now, she'll tie us up in legal proceedings for years. She has connections. Lawyers. Politicians in her pocket. What's the alternative? We force her hand. Make her confess. Record it. Use it as leverage. How? Thomas smiled grimly. You're supposed to sign final papers in 1 week, transferring full control of the trust to your name. She expects you to come alone. Instead, we give her a surprise. We show her we know everything. We threaten to expose her publicly unless she returns the money and confesses to your father's murder. She'll never confess. She will if she thinks it's the only way to avoid prison. Marina studied the documents. Numbers. Bank statements. Shell corporations with names like Alpine Holdings and Summit Investments. Victoria had been systematic, greedy, and sloppy enough to leave traces. What about my father's death? Marina asked. Thomas hesitated. I've been investigating for 8 years. Your father's car crash wasn't an accident. His brake lines were cut, but the mechanic who discovered it died 2 months later. Overdose. The police report was buried. I have copies, but it's circumstantial. Not enough for murder charges. If you are following this story, kindly click that subscribe button. It is totally free to support us, like and share. Who cut the lines? Anton, Victoria's brother. I'm almost certain. But he has an alibi. They both do. Marina felt the old rage kindle in her chest. So they get away with it. Not if Victoria confesses. Not if we get her on recording admitting to the conspiracy. And if she doesn't? Thomas met her eyes. Then we find another way. Marina spent the next week preparing. She hired a private investigator to follow Victoria. She studied her stepmother's routines, her vulnerabilities, her fears. She learned Victoria and Richard's marriage was failing. Richard suspected Victoria of affairs. The real estate business was struggling. They needed money. They needed Marina's trust fund. The meeting was scheduled for Wednesday at 2 p.m. at the estate, Marina's estate, though Victoria had claimed it as her own. Marina hadn't set foot in the house since she was 7. As the car pulled up the long driveway, memories crashed over her. Her father teaching her to ride a bike on this path. Her father's funeral, black-clad mourners everywhere. Victoria moving in, redecorating, erasing every trace of Marina's mother. Thomas squeezed her hand. Remember the plan. Stay calm. Let me do the talking. We're just here to sign papers. But Marina had her own plan. One she hadn't shared with Thomas. Victoria waited in the study, elegant as ever in a white suit. She'd barely aged. Money bought the best skincare, the best surgeons. She looked like a woman of 35, not 47. Her smile was poison disguised as sugar. Marina. My God, look at you. All grown up. I barely recognize you. That was the point. Victoria's smile tightened. Still bitter about boarding school? It was for your own good. You needed structure. Discipline. I needed a family. Well, Victoria gestured to the papers on the desk. Now you have your inheritance. Sign here, and you'll never have to see me again. Isn't that what you want? Thomas stepped forward. Before she signs anything, we need to discuss the accounting. The trust fund is short $18 million. Where did it go? Victoria's expression didn't change. She'd been expecting this. Expenses. Marina's education. Security. Maintenance on this estate. It's all documented. Falsely documented. We have proof you embezzled the money through shell corporations. Prove it in court. We will. Unless you return the money and provide a full confession. Victoria laughed. A confession? To what? Embezzlement. Fraud. And the murder of Marina's father. The laughter died. Victoria's eyes went cold. Get out of my house. It's not your house, Marina said quietly. It never was. Victoria stood. You have no proof of anything. You're a bitter, delusional girl who can't accept that her father chose me. He loved me. He married me. And when he died, he left me in charge. He left me in charge, Marina said. He made me his heir. You were just the guardian. And you abused that power. I gave you the best education money could buy. You tried to kill me on a bridge. Silence fell like a hammer. Victoria's face went pale, then flushed with rage. That was an accident. You fell. I tried to save you. You held me over the railing and let go. You're lying. Am I? Marina pulled out her phone. On the screen was a photograph, Victoria on the bridge, her hand clearly pushing Marina's shoulder. I had the bridge surveillance footage recovered. Took some doing. But it's amazing what you can find if you know where to look. Victoria stared at the image. That's not. How did you? I spent 8 years learning everything I could. Computers. Hacking. Investigation. I found the footage on an old server. The police never bothered to check. But I did. Thomas looked at Marina in shock. She hadn't told him about this. Victoria sank into her chair. For the first time, fear crept into her eyes. What do you want? The truth. All of it. On recording. What you did to my father. What you did to me. Why you did it. Every detail. And if I refuse? Marina showed her another image. Victoria with a man who wasn't Richard. Then another. Then bank statements showing wire transfers to offshore accounts in Victoria's name. Then emails discussing the accident with Anton. I have enough to destroy you, Marina said. Prison. Scandal. Ruin. Or you can confess. Return the money. Serve a reduced sentence in exchange for cooperation. Your choice. Victoria's hands trembled. You vindictive little bitch. I should have held you under the water myself. Probably. But you didn't. Now answer me. Why did you kill my father? The silence stretched. Then Victoria laughed bitterly. Why do you think? Money. I married him for his money. But he was careful. The prenup was airtight. I'd get almost nothing in a divorce. And he was starting to suspect I was having affairs. He threatened to divorce me. So I talked to Anton. We planned it carefully. The brake lines. The curve in the road. It looked like an accident. Marina's hand clenched around her phone, but her voice stayed steady. And me? Why try to kill me? Because you inherited everything. I got a monthly allowance and guardianship. That's it. I'd have to wait 11 years and still only get a fraction. Unless you died. Then I'd inherit immediately. It was the logical solution. I was 7 years old. You were an obstacle. Thomas's voice was cold. You're confessing to premeditated murder. Victoria seemed to realize what she'd said. Her eyes darted to Marina's phone. Are you recording this? Marina smiled. What do you think? Victoria lunged across the desk, grabbing for the phone. Marina stepped back smoothly. Thomas caught Victoria's wrist. Don't make this worse, he said. The door burst open. Anton stood there, his face twisted with fury. I heard everything. Victoria, you idiot. She tricked me. Obviously. Anton pulled out a gun. Marina froze. Thomas stepped in front of her. Put that down, Thomas said. No. Give me that phone. Now. And any backup copies you have. Or I shoot both of you and make it look like a robbery. Marina's mind raced. She hadn't anticipated this. She'd thought Victoria would break, confess, give up. She hadn't counted on Anton being here. Armed. The recording is already uploaded to the cloud, Marina said. Kill us, and it goes automatically to the police. It was a bluff. But Anton hesitated. She's lying, Victoria said. Shoot them. Are you insane? You just confessed to murder on tape. Then we have nothing to lose. Anton raised the gun. Marina saw his finger tighten on the trigger. Time seemed to slow. She thought of her father. Of the bridge. Of 8 years in that cold school. She'd survived so much. She couldn't die now. The window exploded inward. 2 men in tactical gear crashed through, weapons drawn. Police. Drop the weapon. Anton spun, confused. Marina used the distraction to grab a heavy paperweight from the desk and throw it. It caught Anton in the temple. He staggered, dropping the gun. Thomas grabbed it. The tactical team swarmed in. In seconds, both Anton and Victoria were in handcuffs. Marina stood shaking as a familiar face entered the room. Detective Sarah Morrison. She'd been one of the officers who'd questioned Marina at the hospital 8 years ago. The skeptical one. Sorry for the dramatic entrance, Morrison said. But when Mr. Chin told us you were coming here alone, we thought we'd better provide backup. You were listening? Marina asked. Morrison held up a small device. You're not the only one who can hide a recording device. We've been building a case against Victoria Blackwood for 6 months. When Thomas contacted us with your evidence, we knew this was our chance to get a confession. We just needed to let her talk. Victoria screamed curses as she was dragged out. Anton went silently, blood running from his head wound. Marina sat down heavily. It was over. After 8 years, it was finally over. But it wasn't. Not quite. The trial took 4 months. Victoria and Anton both tried to recant their confessions, claiming coercion. But the recordings were clear. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Victoria got life in prison. Anton got 30 years. The estate was returned to Marina. So was the stolen money, most of it recovered from various accounts. At 18 years old, Marina was wealthy, free, and utterly alone. She stood in the study where she'd confronted Victoria, looking at her father's portrait on the wall. She'd been 7 the last time she'd really looked at this painting. He'd seemed so tall then, so invincible. Now she saw the sadness in his eyes. Had he known Victoria would betray him? Had he suspected? Thomas found her there. The lawyers need you to sign some final documents. And there's a reporter outside who wants an interview. Tell them no. Marina, this is a big story. Orphan heiress brings down murderous stepmother. You could inspire people. Or I could live my life. Thomas smiled. Fair enough. What will you do now? Marina looked around the estate. Too many ghosts. Too many memories. Sell this place. Use the money to help other kids like me. Kids with no one to protect them. That's a good legacy. It's my father's legacy. I'm just finishing what he started. She turned to Thomas. I couldn't have done this without you. Thank you. For not forgetting me. Your father was my friend. And you're an extraordinary young woman. Don't forget that. Marina left the estate that day and never returned. She sold it for $40 million and started a foundation for children orphaned by crime. She funded legal aid. She created scholarships. She built safe houses. And every year on her birthday, she visited the bridge where Victoria had tried to kill her. She stood at the railing and looked down at the water. She remembered the fall, the cold, the fear, and she remembered surviving. 5 years later, Marina was 23 and running a successful nonprofit. She'd helped hundreds of children. She'd testified before Congress about victims' rights. She'd become, almost by accident, a voice for the voiceless. One day, she received a letter forwarded from her foundation's office. The handwriting was shaky but recognizable. Victoria's. Marina almost threw it away. But curiosity won. She opened it. Marina, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that prison has given me time to think. About what I did. About who I became. I was consumed by greed, by vanity, by selfishness. I destroyed everything I touched, including an innocent child. I'm sorry. It's not enough. Nothing will ever be enough. But I need you to know that you won. Not because you put me in prison, but because you became everything I could never be. Strong. Compassionate. Good. Your father would be proud. I hope someday you can find peace. Victoria. Marina read the letter twice. She felt no satisfaction. No vindication. Just a hollow sadness for all the wasted years, the wasted lives. She wrote back. Not forgiveness. Not absolution. Just acknowledgement. Victoria, I'm not sure what peace looks like yet. But I'm learning. I hope you find it too, in whatever way you can. Marina. She mailed the letter and let it go. All of it. The anger. The pain. The need for revenge. She'd spent 8 years preparing to confront Victoria. 5 years building something better. Now it was time to just live. She met someone. A teacher named James who volunteered at her foundation. They fell in love slowly, carefully. He knew her story but loved her anyway. They married on a beach in Thailand, far from bridges and cold water. When Marina turned 25, she visited Institute Summit for the first time since leaving. The school had changed. New buildings. New students. But her old room on the top floor was exactly the same. The headmistress, now retired, met her there. I'm sorry, the old woman said. I knew you were isolated. I knew it was wrong. But Victoria paid us well to keep you separate. I told myself it was for your safety. But it was cowardice. I should have protected you. Marina looked around the small room. This place made me strong. I'm not grateful for the pain. But I'm grateful for the strength. What you've built with your foundation, it's remarkable. It's what my father would have wanted. Marina established a scholarship at Institute Summit for children who'd lost parents. Full tuition. No strings. Just a chance for kids like her to have better than she'd had. The years passed. The foundation grew. Marina had children of her own, 2 daughters and a son. She told them about their grandfather. About the bridge. About Victoria. But she also told them about resilience. About justice. About the power of refusing to be broken. On her 30th birthday, Marina stood once again at the bridge. Her husband stood beside her, holding their infant son. Her daughters played nearby, supervised by guards. Marina never took chances with her children's safety. She looked down at the water. It seemed less frightening now. Just water. Just a river. What are you thinking? James asked. That I survived. That's the story. Not the fall. The surviving. She turned away from the railing. Her daughters ran to her, laughing. She scooped them up, one in each arm. They were safe. Loved. Protected. Everything Victoria had tried to take from her, Marina had built back better. That night, Marina received news. Victoria had died in prison. Cancer. She'd been sick for months but hadn't told anyone. She'd died alone. Marina felt a strange emptiness. She'd imagined this moment for years, Victoria's death just as complete. But there was no triumph. Just the sense of a story ending. Not happily. Not tragically. Just ending. She wrote one final letter, to be placed in Victoria's prison file. If you are following this story, kindly click that subscribe button. It is totally free to support us, like and share. To anyone who reads this, Victoria Blackwood was a murderer. She was also a human being who made terrible choices. I hope she found some peace at the end. I hope she understood the damage she caused. I hope she learned that love cannot be bought or stolen, only given freely. And I hope that her story and mine reminds people that children are not obstacles to be removed. They are futures waiting to happen. Protect them. Nurture them. Give them chances to become who they're meant to be. Because the little girl Victoria tried to kill on that bridge became someone who's helped hundreds of other children find safety and hope. She failed to destroy me. And in failing, she created someone dedicated to making sure no other child suffers what I suffered. That's the legacy. Not the crime. The survival. The choice to build instead of destroy. Marina Chun. The letter was filed away. Victoria was buried in an unmarked grave. No one in attendance except the prison chaplain. Marina didn't go. She was busy. Her foundation was opening a new shelter. A little girl, orphaned, traumatized, alone, needed someone to tell her she'd survive. That she'd be okay. That the worst day of her life wasn't the end of her story. Marina met with the girl in a quiet room. She was 7 years old, the same age Marina had been on the bridge. "I'm scared," the girl whispered. "I know," Marina said. "I was scared too. When? When I was your age. Someone hurt me very badly. I thought my life was over. But it wasn't. It was just beginning. And now I help other kids like you. Like us. Did the person who hurt you get punished? Yes. But that's not what saved me. What saved me was deciding that I wouldn't let what happened define me. I would define myself. You can do that too." The girl looked up at Marina with wide eyes. "How?" "One day at a time. One choice at a time. Choosing to be brave. Choosing to be kind. Choosing to survive. And someday, when you're strong enough, choosing to help someone else survive too." The girl nodded slowly. She didn't believe it yet. But she would. In time. Marina stood to leave. As she reached the door, the girl called out, "Will you come back? To visit me?" Marina smiled. "Every week. I promise. You're not alone anymore." She kept that promise. She kept all her promises now. To the children in her care. To her own children. To her father's memory. To herself. Years later, that same little girl graduated from college. She became a social worker. At the ceremony, she found Marina in the crowd. "You saved my life," she said. "No," Marina replied. "You saved your own life. I just showed you it was possible." They hugged. Two survivors. Two women who'd been broken as children and chose to heal themselves and others. This is what victory looks like, Marina thought. Not revenge. Not punishment. But this. Broken children becoming whole adults. Whole adults becoming healers. Healers creating more healers. The cycle of abuse ended. The cycle of hope began. Marina's daughters grew up strong and confident, never doubting they were loved. Her son became a lawyer like Thomas, fighting for children's rights. Her foundation expanded internationally, helping thousands of kids worldwide. And every year on the anniversary of the bridge, Marina told her story to a new group of survivors. Young people who'd been betrayed, abandoned, hurt. She told them the truth, that trauma leaves scars. That some wounds never fully heal. That nightmares sometimes return. But she also told them the other truth, that they could survive. That strength comes from surviving. That they could take their pain and transform it into purpose. "Your past doesn't have to be your future," she always concluded. "Someone tried to throw me off a bridge when I was 7. They wanted to erase me. Instead, I became this. A wife. A mother. An advocate. A survivor who helps other survivors. That's the secret they never understand. The people who try to break us. We're stronger than they know. We're more resilient than they imagine. And when we survive, we become unstoppable." The applause always came then. But Marina never needed it. She had something better. She had purpose. Peace. A life well lived despite everything. And somewhere, she liked to imagine her father watching. Proud. Relieved. Grateful that his daughter had not just survived, but thrived. Thomas Chun, now elderly and retired, visited Marina on her 40th birthday. They stood together at the bridge one last time. "I kept my promise to your father," Thomas said. I watched over you. You did more than that. You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me that there are good people in the world who keep their promises. And you became one of those people. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the water flow beneath them. So much had changed. The frightened child and the determined lawyer had become lifelong friends. The tragedy had become a testament to resilience. What's the lesson? Thomas asked suddenly. If you had to sum up everything you've learned, everything you've become, what would it be? Marina thought carefully. That evil doesn't win by being stronger. It wins by making us believe we're too weak to fight back. My stepmother tried to kill me. She thought a 7-year-old child was powerless. But she was wrong. I had something she didn't. I had the will to survive. And I had people like you who refused to forget me. That's the lesson. We're never as powerless as we think. We're never as alone as we fear. And the people who try to destroy us, they lose in the end. Not because justice always prevails, but because survivors refuse to stay victims. We become something more. We become hope. Thomas smiled. Your father chose well when he made you his heir. Not just of his money, of his values. They left the bridge together. Behind them, the water flowed on, indifferent to the dramas of human lives. But the bridge remained. A reminder. A monument. A beginning, not an end. Marina never returned to it again. She didn't need to. She'd transformed its meaning from the place she almost died to the place she chose to live. That was enough. Her story spread. A book was written. A documentary was made. She didn't seek the attention, but she used it. Every interview, every speech, every appearance was an opportunity to remind people that children matter. That their safety matters. That adults have a responsibility to protect, not harm. Laws changed because of her advocacy. Child protection services were reformed. Oversight of guardianship was strengthened. The Marina's Law package passed in 17 states, making it harder for guardians to abuse their power. Victoria would have hated it, her victim becoming famous for destroying the very system Victoria had exploited. But Victoria was gone, and Marina had stopped caring what her stepmother would have thought. The only opinion that mattered was her own. And when Marina looked in the mirror, she saw someone she could be proud of. Someone her father would have loved. Someone her children admired. Someone who'd taken unimaginable pain and transformed it into immeasurable good. That was the real revenge. Not punishment. Not suffering. But becoming so completely opposite to her abuser that even the memory of that abuse became powerless. Marina lived to see her grandchildren. She lived to see her foundation help its 10,000th child. She lived to see the estate where she'd grown up, sold and renovated, become a children's hospital. And when she was very old, sitting in her garden surrounded by 3 generations of family, someone asked her the question she'd been asked 1,000 times. Do you ever wish it had been different? That your father hadn't died, that Victoria hadn't hurt you, that you'd had a normal childhood? Marina considered this. Once, she would have said yes immediately. But now, with the perspective of decades, she understood something profound. My childhood was stolen from me, she said slowly. I'll always carry that loss. But my life wasn't stolen. I took it back, and I built something beautiful with it. If everything had been different, I'd be different. Maybe happier. Maybe easier. But I wouldn't be me. And I've grown to like who I am. So no, I don't wish it had been different. I wish it had been easier. But not different. Her granddaughter, 7 years old, the same age Marina had been on the bridge, climbed into her lap. Tell me the story, Grandma. About the bridge. Marina looked at the child's trusting face. The same age. The same innocence. But this child would never know that terror, that betrayal. This child was protected. Loved. Safe. Once upon a time, Marina began, there was a little girl who fell from a bridge into a river. Everyone thought she would drown. But she didn't. She learned to swim. And she swam all the way home. It took her years. But she made it. And when she got home, she built a lighthouse so other children who were lost could find their way home too. The end. The child smiled. That's a good story. The best ones always are, Marina said. The ones where the hero survives. She held her granddaughter close, feeling the weight of years and wisdom and survival. The little girl who'd been pushed off a bridge was gone. But she'd become something better. A woman who'd pushed back against the darkness and won. Not through violence. Not through vengeance. But through the simple, profound act of refusing to be destroyed. Of choosing every single day to survive. To heal. To help. That was the secret Victoria never learned. That strength isn't about power over others. It's about power over yourself. The power to choose how you respond to what happens to you. The power to write your own ending. Marina had written hers. And it was beautiful.